Hello, hello. Welcome back to The Embodied Woman. Looking forward to our guest speaker today. This is a embodied coach, a past client of mine, and I know that she's got a lot of value and just good energy. Like I always say, like Kat's energy is very, very healing. So I'm excited to introduce you to Kat. Hello, how are you?
Hi, thank you for those sweet words.
Ah,
I'm doing well. I'm excited to be here.
me too. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Day two. This will be up in like a couple weeks, but day two of recording this.
Love
Um,
it.
what are you looking forward to in 2023?
So many things. The fact that it's just a complete reset is probably my favorite thing.
Yep.
2022 felt really hard, a lot of lessons, a lot of like strength building, foundational stuff, and now I feel ready to like launch up.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more. I was describing it as like, so I my word for 2022 was expansion. And I realized that when you ask for expansion, like just be prepared for the actual expansion. And guess what? It fucking hurts. It's not easy. It's just like building a muscle, like you're like doing that heavy lifting and it feels so painful and it's hard and it's not easy. But then on the other side of it, you're so much more resilient and stronger. And yeah, so
Whew,
I feel like
I
that's what
feel that.
2022 was.
I definitely feel that.
Oh, well, I'm excited to see what you create in 2023. Um, okay, tell us about you, who you are, what you do, and how you got into doing the work that you're doing.
Sure thing. So I'm Kat or Katie or Katie Cat. We were just talking about that earlier. I
Yep.
have a multiple string of names, but whatever people are comfortable calling me. So I am a spiritual mentor and guide and a healer, and I am a great many things. I do shamanic work, inner child healing, shadow work. Really, like I said, just light language, that's a really big one. So a bunch of different things. But basically, how I started on the healing journey is probably the coolest part. I do have a fun story with it.
I mean, hear it. I don't even know if I've ever heard it actually. I feel like I should know this.
So yeah, definitely. It was okay. So probably like most people on spiritual journeys, I was bottomed out first.
Mm, yep. Yep.
I'd yeah, hit a wall. I liked to party hardy, use things to escape, and just people, whatever it was, I just really liked to be not in my own skin. I figured out later that was because I'm hypersensitive.
Yeah, feel that.
Yeah, but and growing up in a world where they don't teach you hypersensitivity, it can be hard to navigate.
Yeah, or even just how to manage your emotions.
Absolutely, 100%. I'm still learning how to manage my emotions.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, my Aries moon gets fired up sometimes.
We both have Aries moons.
Yes, that's right. I forgot about that. You know what? I actually looked at that one point. I was like, yes, I see that sparky. We can relate to that spark of that initial fire and then the fizzle
Yep.
out.
Yep. Sometimes I feel so bad for my man because it's like he gets the runt of my Aries because he's like closest to me. So like he'll see my real emotions.
Absolutely. The
Like,
people that are
whew.
closest to me always get the fire.
Yep.
And then, like I said, that quick fizzle out where I'm like, okay, I'm fine. Like, are
Yeah.
we good now? Let's move
Me
on.
every day.
So I had kind of just been looking for anything that would make me feel alive again. I was bartending at the time, and this was like 8 years ago, 8 or 9 years ago. I was bartending and pretty much like drinking every night. And I had just gone through a bad breakup that I had been in the relationship for probably like 4 years. And my older brother had suggested Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth, for me to read.
Mhm. Yeah.
Game Changer, such a good book.
Yeah.
I got a lot of good tidbits out of that. But basically, the first thing, which was the kickoff, was that I needed to be spending more time doing things that I enjoyed or like being outside and connecting with nature. So I shifted slowly and started going out on more hikes and trying to do more things and trying to drink less. That was my first goal.
Yeah.
Um, and I started to drink a lot less and I started to do more of those things. And so I was actually getting ready to graduate from college. I have my bachelor's degree in psychology. So that was a fun little
Oh
rabbit
my
hole.
gosh, so cool. I feel like I'm learning more and more about you. You're like an onion.
I am like an onion. Well, because it's funny because I don't think to tell people things, like it has to come up like in the moment, you know what I mean?
Totally.
Um,
Yeah.
Actually, one of my partners would always say that, get frustrated because he'd be like, "Why didn't you tell me that?" And I'm like, "I don't know, I didn't think of it till just now."
I also feel like it's a part of your nature to like nurture others. Like, and I know this about you just from witnessing you. It's like you really pour into other people and you really listen and observe and absorb. And so I
Yeah.
almost feel like just talking about yourself isn't in your nature. You know what I mean?
It doesn't feel natural. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, this last year, actually, one of the biggest lessons was learning how to fill my own cup first.
Yes. Yep. Good. Good.
Yeah, because you do pour a lot. So I read that book, and then I got an invite after I graduated. I was getting ready to graduate, and one of my I used to also do door-to-door sales. I think I told you that one before. I sold
Yeah.
magazines door to door. So I made a lot of contacts that way because I was all over the country, and I had a couple in California, and I always wanted to live in California. I just loved it. I'd visited a couple times. I've always felt like a California girl. Like everyone's like, you seem like you grew up on the West Coast, even though I was East Coast born and raised.
Yeah. Yeah.
Had the vibe for it. And it's funny too, actually, I didn't realize that I had been slowly manifesting all through my life, these little things. But when I look back, like I had this one profile picture, and I had gotten a bouquet of flowers, and there was like a picture of a California license plate on the flower thing. And I cut it out and I like posted it on my chest and took a picture. And I'm like, this is so, of course I ended up there.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Well, that's a whole, we'll save that conversation because that's a
I
big one.
the manifestation, right? The little things.
Yeah.
So I had a friend who used to work for me, and she lived out there. That's where I met her from. And she was like, "Hey, do you want to come out to the West Coast?" And at the time, I was like bartending and nannying, and she was like, "You can nanny for these kids that I work for." She lived on a big grow, so weed farm, and
Yeah.
it's feed and wine country out where I was at in Philo. So I was like, yes, where do you sign me up?
So good.
Please, that sounds amazing.
Ah,
So I packed up this little Ford Ranger pickup truck, and one of my best friends drove with me across the country, and I like got rid of a bunch of my shit and just got in the truck and rolled out. So it took us a week. We drove out there. She flew back, and then I stayed out there.
yeah.
Um, but I met an energy worker out there, and I had when I tell you I had like no idea about the spiritual world, I knew nothing. I was great.
Yeah.
I was raised in like a really strict non-denominational Christian environment. And so I met an energy healer, and I was like, I don't know what it is that you do, but I feel like I'm good at that.
Mhm. Yeah.
It just clicked. Yeah, it was one of those things where you just know when you know.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So I had just started rekindling my relationship with the universe based off of the A New Earth. And I think I read also too after that proceeding like four agreements and some other stuff. So I started talking to spirit again. And
Yeah.
I said, if this is something that you want me to do, show me. That was it. Left it at that. So then fast forward maybe like a month or so. I go out to the East Coast for a friend's wedding. And on my way back, I was in a layover in Arizona, and I saw these two guys, older guys, and they were electric, talking to everybody that passed by them, high-fiving little kids. And they were like, I thought they were stretching at the time, but I found out later they were doing Qigong. And
Yeah.
yeah, I was like, okay, well, I'm on a layover, so I'm going to stretch with you guys. So I just walked over. I started talking to them and stretching. And I had been reading a book about, it was a neurobiology book about the subliminal mind and how our unconscious behavior like rules our world. And I was just eating it all up. And one of the guys looked down at the book, and he was like, I teach that to people.
Hmm.
I said, hold up, let's roll back. What do you mean you teach this to people?
Wow. You got your
Yeah.
sign.
I got my sign. So he gave me his business card.
Uh-huh.
I gave them both hugs, and they were like, yeah, we're getting ready to go to Mount Shasta. We're going to celebrate the lunar eclipse and bring in abundance. And I'm like, the what? No clue.
I'm just loving this because that's literally what you do. You know, like that's you
Yeah.
now.
um,
Oh, that's so great.
so it was really funny because I don't know if at the time I actually had an intention of going and meeting them because, whatever, it was like two strangers in an airport. And
Yeah.
yeah, but I went back to California and Mount Shasta. So I was staying in Philo. Mount Shasta is about 5 hours north from Philo. And I kept thinking about them. Like they just kept hitting in my head. And I'm like, I don't know what this is. Well, eventually it came up to the weekend of where they're holding their big event. Everything in my immediate environment turned crazy. Like I got in a fight with my roommate. The people who I was working for were literally in the middle of a divorce and they were like chaotically screaming at each other and
Oh,
toxically throwing things. And I had off for the weekend. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to drive to Shasta this weekend.
oh yeah.
So literally the moment I decided, within 1 to 2 minutes, I got a text from Will, who ended up being my teacher, and was like, "You're coming, right?" I was so freaked out. I'm like,
Oh
how did
my
you know this? This is
God.
so weird.
I got chills. I love like listening to synchronicities and stories and like all of like the unfolding of getting to where you are today. Like it's one of my favorite things because it's
Me
like
too.
you don't realize it like in the moment when because you're so in it, but then you look back and you're like, holy shit, like
Yeah, I've
I have
got
been
goosebumps
led.
too.
Yeah, like I've been led here the entire time. Like this was no
Mhm.
accident. This was no coincidence. I
Yeah,
I love
it
it.
helps to like pull out and think of that bigger picture.
Hmm.
I coined a term for that. I like to call it the domino effect because it's like you flick one into place and then you have this beautiful pattern that starts to unfold.
Ah, I love that. Okay, I want to talk about that more. I'm writing it down.
Yeah, for sure. So it was funny because I actually only had $60 at the time that I was like deciding to make this trip. I used to be very spontaneous. Now that I'm a little bit older, I've decided that I like to live in less discomfort, but I used to make myself really uncomfortable.
Yep. Love
But
it.
I had cool things happen. So it was like I wasn't opposed to it at the time. I'm like, something will happen.
Hey, as a fellow wild one, I get it. Like that spontaneity, like it leaves this spark of life and it creates incredible memories. And I'm also in the stage where I'm like, well, I still want to do hard things, but like in the comfort of my own home.
Yes, or like in a first class flight
Yeah,
or whatever it
exactly.
is. I was
Yep.
like in my 20s, like scraping. People are like, how do you travel so much? And I'm like, because I literally travel on nothing.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah. So I had $60 in my pocket and I had my little pickup truck. And so I hopped in it and I started driving north. Excuse me. The whole time I was actually telling myself, you're a crazy person. You're going to meet two strange men. You're 3,000 miles away from everyone that loves you. You're 5 hours away from the people that know you. Not many people knew I was gone. There were so many factors. And I don't know, I just felt so right. Like no matter what my mind was telling me, my body, everything, literally to the point that my sinuses like cleared up. They were all clear. I could breathe super clear. I saw a freaking rainbow. I was like,
Yes.
all right. I'm like, this can't be bad. And not to mention the fact that like I just had such an imprint on my memory of what their energy was like when I was in the airport. And I'm like, these are good people. I can just feel it.
Yeah.
So I drew up there with the $60 in my pocket and faith in my heart. And I got there and it was such a transformational experience. They were training a younger woman who I also became good friends with later in Reiki and Aquarian fire, which is another energy modality that I do. It's essentially holy fire Reiki, but just infused with the age of Aquarius,
Got
which
it.
is some other big stuff, the transitions of the precession of the equinox.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna like we should dive into that a little bit more.
Totally. Yeah. There's so many things, right? It's like the unfolding, like you said, like the onion.
Yep. I love it.
So that was the first place though. And so Mount Shasta, this was the cool thing that I found out later that I didn't know at the time. It's considered the root chakra of the world
Yeah.
and out of literally the whole planet. So I felt like that was a huge activation for me to like go up in that point. And then I got a Reiki session done for me. Um, my dear friend Brian. He is amazing. So he did crystal healing and he put crystals in my chakras, didn't even use touch. So there's like Reiki touch and then there's Reiki no touch, just
Mhm.
had his hands over top of me. I had an extreme experience.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes I freak people out when I say this because if they've never had it, they're like, oh my God, I don't want that to happen to me.
Uh-huh.
I was ready for it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with energy work is it only does what you're ready for.
Yeah.
So that was another big lesson. But my experience was I was shaking and convulsing and sobbing and releasing. He literally at one point looked at me and he's like, do you need me to stop? And I was like, no, this is good. I
Yeah.
feel that this is good. And what was coming up in my mind was really intense memories, especially from like my post high school, college kind of not taking care of my body, not taking care of my spirit, not taking care of myself, trauma that I caused myself, not even anybody else. I caused myself, that all was coming up and just releasing. Um, and I can't explain how I felt afterwards. I get, except for saying maybe that I felt like the lights were on after that.
Mm, mm.
I literally, I called my mom, because like I said, I was raised in a Christian environment and I called her crying and I was just like, I'm so sorry I didn't believe you.
Mhm.
Because to me, it was bigger than the Christianity. It was just like, I know what you're talking about now,
Yeah.
you know? It was
Yeah.
really, yeah, it was powerful. So that kind of catalyzed my whole, I said, I looked at him, I said, I need to learn how you did that to me, what you did, and how to do that to people.
Oh, that's incredible. And like it just goes to show what magic can unfold when you like follow the signs, you follow the
Yeah.
breadcrumbs and you keep saying yes to those feelings of inner knowing. And something that you brought up too in that was like that level of self-forgiveness that had to occur in order for you to like evolve as a human.
Full,
And
yeah, full
yeah,
body chills as you said that. Yeah, that
it's
was a major blockage. I think for a lot of people, because we carry in so much of that generational ancestral stuff.
yeah.
And so our roots like already are coming off when we're born at a deficit. Not to our fault, but
No. Yeah.
yeah,
It is true. And I like how you describe it as like that deficit and like it at some point, and I feel like a lot of people can relate to this, at least I did when I first started on this more spiritual path of life. It's like this is neutral. This was me. And like I just had, I'm like trying to, but they can't, you guys just like try to paint the picture. Your hand is like your hand's in the middle and you're below the hand, you're below water. And it's like all of that beginner foundational work of like releasing trauma and forgiving yourself, forgiving others, starting to do the foundational stuff. Like you said, like you just
Mhm.
started getting out in nature. It's like, that just brings you like above water,
Yeah, base
you
level,
know,
totally.
it brings you to base level. And then from there, like the sky's the limit, right? Not even the limit.
And
So
you know, it's funny too, like when I had that experience, I explained to people that years later I realized because my root chakra had opened a little bit, but there was still so much healing that needed to be done. But my third eye and my crown like blasted open. So I almost was top heavy for a couple years where I was like super spacey and like not very grounded.
yep, like all up in the 5D.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Talking to aliens, all of it. I mean, I still do sometimes, but I didn't have any grounding or basis.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm always like play in magic, like play in the
Right.
magic, but don't play in the magic so that you get lost in the magic. Play in the magic so you can actually experience magic in this 3D reality. Like that's the
Totally.
goal in this human experience.
Yeah. And I know part of my purpose is like helping others. And really, when I was in that state of being, let's just call it what it is, so high, I couldn't relate to like others that were grounded around me. You know, it's like about a being the bridge, a bridge in the middle, you know? And to me, that's the heart space because it's the heavenly world meeting your earthly world and then where you share your gifts.
Yeah, and you are such a bridge. Like that's when you guys and I like said like her cat.
Meow.
Her energy is just so healing. I mean it. And I think it is because you have found how to be the bridge.
Thank you for saying that. That's a beautiful reflection. I accept that.
You're welcome. Okay, so we have so much stuff to dive into. One of the things that I want to learn more about was the Aquarian fire Reiki.
Yeah.
So talk to us about that because I haven't heard of it.
Yes.
And I was also going to say my first experience with Reiki was non-touch as well. And at this point, I was like a baby in the spiritual world. And I remember I was getting a facial and my esthetician was like, "Do you want me to do Reiki on you as well?" And I was like, "Sure, let's do it." And I remember feeling, she wasn't touching me, but feeling actual energy, like vibrating into and around my body. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? What is this? What is happening? Like, this is not real. Like, she's doing something. I kept my eyes open at one point to be like, what is she doing? What is she using? It was literally just her hands.
Yeah.
And I was spooked, but it also anchored my belief in
Mm.
energy work so much more because I actually was able to receive it. So I
Yeah.
just wanted to speak to that because I had a similar experience.
Yeah. I love it, and like playing in the energetic field and learning more and more of what I can do and expand and grow. I've had like clients that I've worked with, and when I'm like pulling things, not touching, they're like, I felt you pulling it out of me. It's so potent. It's wild. I actually really enjoy doing non-touch, but if the person allows for touch, I do that because I think in this earthly world, we're so lacking in intimacy and touch and feeling that it creates this extra element for people. But I do distance sessions too. So that obviously works even more with your faith, where you're like, I'm very far away from someone, but I'm activating this energy and it's still working. I'm still doing it because my intention is there and I'm there in presence with them.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah.
Okay, so talk to us about the
So,
Aquarian fire.
yes. So the Aquarian fire. This is such beautiful energy. The most simplest way that I can really like throw it out, and then I'll go deeper into it after the simplicity of it, is it's the Holy Spirit,
Mhm.
essentially. Reiki is, so Rei is universal and Ki is energy. So it's universal energy. And it works specifically with the symbols. There's Chokurei and then a couple other Japanese symbols. Reiki, if nobody knows, comes from an ancient Japanese technique. It was actually channeled information. The guy who created it, he went out into the woods or maybe the desert, but he meditated like Jesus did for 7 days. Jesus and the Buddha actually 7 days, no water, no food, no nothing, and put a stone for each day that he was there and received all of the downloads of the code, or I keep wanting to say the codes, they're codes, but the symbols, all of it came through. Um, and it's very controversial too, because he literally says, he's like, this was around so much longer than me just bringing it through.
Yeah.
Ancient wisdom. So, sorry, excuse me.
You're
Aquarian
welcome.
fire is Reiki. However, it's what's called holy fire Reiki. And so the best way to describe holy fire, and this is why I say the Holy Spirit, is it's basically that burning sensation that lights you up in your heart space. It is your highest joy, your highest level to excitement. It is everything that lights you up and just engulfs.
Yeah.
It's represented with a blue energy flame.
Mhm.
So that is very cleansing, purifying. It can be used to literally enhance any task that you do. When I walk into a room, I just fill a room with it. And so the difference between holy fire Reiki, I would say, and regular Reiki is holy fire, you don't use the symbols. It's just you can have the vision of the fire and really doing whatever type of intuitive psychic guidance comes to you for healing processes. So there's all types of deeper techniques that have been channeled through that help to aid when you're doing a session, all in the imaginal realm, I guess you could say, as things are
Yeah.
happening. So Aquarian fire was channeled to my teacher. Um, and it's the holy fire essentially utilized in this age of Aquarius.
Yes.
So I'll talk about the age of Aquarius. That's what we're in right now. Essentially the earth, as it's turning on its axis, it's cycling through the houses of each of the for astrologically speaking, right? And so It goes for the precession of the equinox. It's got the illusion of going backwards. So the signs actually move backwards. So we were just in the age of Pisces, which is the age of technology, information, and building, which is insane. Because if you think about, so an age is 2000 years, right? So if you think about the last 2000 years, what has that been? It's been all building up technology, advancement, all that kind of stuff, right? So that's insane. Not to mention that Jesus in the Bible talked about, so that would have been Aries, I think, was before Pisces. It's yeah, the ram, right? And that's when they used to do animal sacrifices for cleansing their spirit and all things like that. And we moved away from that after Jesus came, right? And so then, and Jesus said actually in the Bible, he was like, the next time you will see me, it will be the age of the two fishes, which is crazy because people don't like to relate the two within there. But
Yeah.
those wise men, they were astrologers. That's how they knew to follow the star to find what they needed to find.
Mhm. Wow. Oh my gosh, I'm
Yeah.
loving this.
So now that we're in the age of Aquarius, this is literally the age of unity, equality, and love. So
Mm.
this is the advancement of our higher selves, of us stepping into our authenticity, of our fullness. It is the divine union of masculine and feminine energy.
Mm.
It's subjective as to when it started. Some people are like 2012, 2020. But either way, we're in it now. The reason there's subjectivity too is because in 2012, that's when the Mayans said that their calendar was ending. But if you get into it real deep down a rabbit hole with calendars, you realize that we're not actually using traditional calendars that were made
Yep.
before. So our time is all wonky.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. I'm like, especially in the United States too. Like
We're
we do
on our own
everything
type
backwards.
time. We were literally like, we don't like what anybody else is doing. We're going to do it our way.
Yeah, and we're gonna say that it's better than everything.
Yep, absolutely. Because really, in our development as a culture, or like astrologically speaking, like when our birthday was, we're toddlers. Compared
Yeah.
to the rest of the world, we
Ah,
are toddlers, which
yep.
makes sense why we're so stubborn and
Yeah.
all those things.
Yeah. It's interesting because when you say the age of Aquarius, I'm an Aquarius,
Mm,
and something that like has always been, I guess, top of mind or a priority has been like success and my independence, like valuing my independence. So I'm curious, like when I think of Aquarius, I think of that. Is there any of that involved in the age of Aquarius, or is it a different?
it is. It's about individual independence, but however, also because Aquarius, the sign, is also about networking and connecting and being like I was gonna say worldly, but that's not it. Like expanding in the world and like moving in the world and being free spirited. And that's really what's happening. If you see it around you, it's like, whoa, okay, like I'm on this individual path, but I'm also networked with all these people who are awakening as well. And it's all coming together in this giant net of oneness, really.
Yeah, yeah. The word that came to mind was like sovereignty
Mm.
and in community. Yeah.
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
sovereignty, and especially sovereignty in community too, right? Because it's like you don't want to get lost in the mix. You don't want to feel so blended that you don't feel like you anymore, or that what you have to offer is special, right? There's a beautiful way that it all networks together where we get to see each other's gifts individually and collectively.
I'm so excited for like the unity of the age of Aquarius to take full effect.
I know, me too. Well, so I was watching some interesting things earlier, actually. People who are deeper down certain rabbit holes of information than I am have said, I know the Pope just died, and there's a lot of these big world leaders that are controversial, we'll say,
For sure.
um,
Yeah.
that are kind of kicking the bucket. So who knows what's really happening in the grand scheme of things, but something's happening.
Yeah, it's so true. Oh my gosh. Ooh, something exciting to think about.
Oh, and so another, I guess, big point too with Aquarian fire, the reason that the holy fire is, in my belief, that it's so useful in this age of Aquarius is because if you think about somebody who was attuned to energy work thousands of years ago, it literally took a lifetime to envelop what it is that you're learning and embody. And that's not to say that we don't still have to learn things and spend time and dedicate ourselves to mastery and whatnot. However, people are coming online so quickly that there has to be this faster way to process the gifts that are coming through, the sensitivities and all the things.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. That makes sense. It's a more like m- technological advanced Reiki in the sense of like it's service to where we're at now. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Things are always changing. It's like we
Yeah.
got to keep up with the changes, for sure. And it's this beautiful blend of divine masculine and divine feminine energy because our heart space, our anahata in Sanskrit, like we were just talking about earlier, the merging of the heaven and the earthly realms, it is the Star of David, right? Those two triangles where it's the triangle up, which represents masculine energy, and then the triangle down, which represents feminine energy. So holy fire or Aquarian fire, it is an ignition of the heart when you become attuned to it. And so it's activating that divine feminine and divine masculine energy in union, as well as with heaven and earth.
So beautiful. You're so knowledgeable. It's so cool. It's so cool to like see you in your zone of genius because like for what was it, 4 months together?
Right.
It was reversed, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I just love seeing you so in your zone of genius. Okay, so you mentioned something about the domino effect, and I feel like especially in a new year this is really an opportunity for people to basically make those illogical decisions. Like say yes to going on that trip with two random guys you met at an airport because you had that inner knowing that it was like, yes, like I'm supposed to be there. It didn't make sense.
Right.
And it led you to a path of alignment
Mm.
and and purpose. So what would you say to the people who are like, all right, it's 2023 and like where am I going? What am I doing? How do I get there?
Mm. Yeah. Definitely getting out of the head and in the body, specifically in the heart space for sure. And I know people as like with if we're human design speaking, we have different ways that we read our energy within our body. But you can't go wrong with the heart space. You know, there's just this deep inner knowing. It's another brain, right? We have three brains. We've got the brain, the gut brain, and then the heart brain.
Yeah.
And it's so wise and so knowing. And really what happens is I believe that it's always our intuition that gives us the first ping that's like right and that's the thing, but then the ego follows up close second, getting in the head, turning the wheels, spinning the thoughts, every single possible what if scenario coming up that you've ever experienced, heard of, or whatever is going to come through,
Yeah.
right? And it's about moving past that because it doesn't have to be your experience. Just because there was an experience that was somebody else's doesn't mean it has to be yours. I dealt with this a lot actually with I was a very young independent traveler,
Mhm.
and so many people tried to say things to me like, aren't you worried being a female on your own traveling? I didn't even think of it until somebody had said it to me. And then I kind of started to freak out a little bit because I was like, do I have to be worried about this? I went out of the country. I went to Peru and traveled on my own, solo traveler as well. And I have to tell you, I never had one experience that felt wrong or bad. And, you know, and with that, to disclaim this happened to me too when I was like selling magazines. There's another knowing, right? If you feel like something is about to not be right, go
Yeah.
the other way.
Yep. Yeah. So true. That's like that the feeling that I had at my job, working in that cubicle. Like every single time I would step into my cubicle, it was like I knew that I would just like was not supposed to be there.
Mm.
And you can try to ignore it, y'all. Like I tried. I tried for a whole year, knowing that I wasn't supposed to be in that cubicle. And at some point, like something's got to give. And
Definitely.
and I honestly believe that me not listening and suppressing that inner knowing for
Mm.
an entire year led to my I guess the dismantling or the deterioration of my health, my
Yeah.
mental health, my emotional health, my physical health. Like I started having seizures at work, like crazy stuff that if I would have just listened to that knowing, I probably wouldn't have ended off as unhealthy as I was at the end of it.
Totally. I
Yeah.
always tell people that I work with, I'm like, where you're already going to be moving to where you're headed towards, because that's like part of the more grand scheme. We get to choose the ways in which we go and end up there. So you can go one of two ways, gently and peacefully, or kicking and screaming.
That that right there. Like, oh, I kicked and screamed so fucking hard.
Yeah, yeah.
But
And it does. It breaks us down internally, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, like you said. And then it also deteriorates trust with ourselves
oh yeah.
because, yeah, I mean, and that takes building back up. Just like if there's a person that breaks your trust in your life, you're not just going to be like, okay, everything's forgiven, you're welcome and back in. It's going to take a little time to build that back up. And it's the same with ourselves because, you know, your internal self that's so wise and knowing wants to be like, why don't you just listen to me?
Come on, girl, get it together. But you said something that really sparked in that, like listening to the body piece, was as soon as you headed up to Mount Shasta, like your sinus is clear,
Yeah.
and like so our body is always like communicating to us. Yeah.
Yeah, that's well, so that's congruency when aligned thought meets aligned speech meets aligned action. So it creates this congruency in your whole auric field, your energy body, your physical body, everything to create alignment. So everything just starts feeling good and right. And that's how you know.
Yeah, it's so freaking true. Can I also just say, um, it's day 2 of 2023, and I feel like the 2022 back in fucking, let's say, probably October, like once I got back from Europe, I was like, okay, like I'm ready for 2023. Like so it already felt like the new year. It was like this like weird like in between couple of months where I was like, okay, I know what I'm not doing and I know what I am doing, but a lot of what I am doing is for the next year, right?
Yeah.
So I was
Yeah.
in this like weird in between, but it was, I needed that, right? I needed that time to like rest, recover, plan, all that. It is day 2, and my skin has never been so radiant and clear. And since like it's been a long time since my skin has looked like this. And like it literally just happened yesterday and today. And I've just been like, oh my God, like I'm aligned and it's
I love it.
happening and I'm happy and I'm healthy and it's here. And so it's just, I just wanted to share that because
Yeah.
it happens immediately.
Yeah, it does. It really does. And well, it probably too is a result of you allowing for yourself to rest in that period that you needed to rest. You know what I mean? Because I find that when we're fighting ourselves more, the good thing comes. It just takes, we like create a blockage and it takes longer for it to come instead of
Seriously,
just like
yeah.
leading into it and being like, okay, all right, let me move through this and then I'm ready to receive when it's ready to come. But it does happen
Exactly.
quick, so quick.
Yeah, it does. It's like that analogy I always showed you guys in the embodied coach, right? Like this is the resistance. It's like this that your hand is the resistance, and then your left hand is you resisting the resistance, and it just
Yeah.
creates more. And it's like, why don't we just like let ourselves be? Let
Right.
ourselves be
Right.
in there. Yeah, it's so true. Okay, cool. Um, okay. What was the other thing? Oh, asking for a sign. So
Mm,
this is what you did.
yeah.
You spoke when you rekindled your relationship with spirit. You were like, okay, give me a motherfucking sign.
Yep.
Um, so what would you suggest for people who are like starting down their path and looking for signs? Because I think
Uh,
that
I love this.
yes, go ahead. I'll just let you take it away.
Yeah, this is I really love playing in this world. So the first advice that I can give about asking for a sign is to trust it when it comes.
Yep.
Because so often, I don't know if anybody's ever seen that meme. It's like, I asked for a sign, but I'm waiting for a signier sign.
Yes. Oh, yes. No, not that one. I need a
Yeah.
signier one.
Right, and I do this too because we're human, right? And there's that the thought that comes, the ego that wants to interject, and all ego is too, I just want to say, is like it's that piece of inner child that doesn't know and doesn't understand and hasn't learned, and so that's the integration of it. So it's really just like explaining when that question piece comes up of like, oh, it's just this, just like an adult would do with a child. It's just this, it's just that, and creating that safety for them that they're like, oh, okay, within. So with signs, it's about finding things that you connect with. So you can literally ask for signs under any type of symbol that you'd like. It can be numbers, it can be animals, it can be colors, you can ask to see something, you can ask for someone to give you something, you can ask for it can be as specific as you want or as broad as you want. I like to go really, really specific. I like to play games with the universe to see like how specific I can get with certain things, because it's so much fun, A, and B, because then you really, really know that it's for you, because you're like, there's no way. There's just no way. Like,
So true.
I was in a situation, actually, perfect example of asking for a sign. Several months ago, I had a really deep heart question that I felt very confused about, that I was very back and forth on for like such a long time. And so I asked Spirit, if the answer was yes, have someone bring me a bouquet of lilies.
Wow.
Yeah, so specific. And I
Yeah.
hadn't received flowers in like years. So I was like, okay, this is like a safe thing, right?
Yeah.
I was on a trip at the time. I come back from my trip and my sister had a bouquet of white lily. I even said white and they were white lilies. And I was like, shut the fuck up.
See, like when I hear things like that and when I experience things like that, I'm just like, how can you not ever trust Sarah? Like,
I know, right?
because
Funny, even more, I didn't listen.
it's like I always say, bring hindsight into your present moment,
Yep.
right? And
Yep.
every single time I look back and I'm like, oh, like I get it now. I get it now. And like,
Right.
why can't we just live as if I get it now every day?
Right, right. Well, because then it's no fun that way, right? It's all about the detour to destination, because the detours are fun. It's like being on a road trip and you're like, hey, let's stop and go stop at this place. But you have the one person that's like, no, we have a schedule. We have to stay on point. We have to do this. And it's like the fun, eccentric person that's like, no, but I heard this was really fun. Let's just do it. And they like turn the wheel and just go. You still end up where you're going. You just took a detour.
Yeah, it spices life up.
Yeah, exactly. So with signs, and I like to write them down too, so I can keep like a log of what I'm asking for and like what the specifics are. That way, when it comes, I really, really know. And that way I can also remember, because sometimes you can ask for something and then totally forget, and maybe you saw it, but you don't remember anyway. So,
Totally. Yep. Yeah.
but yeah, so like I said, animals, numbers, I have, and it's things that are special to you. It can be even angels too, right? And you could say like, show me Archangel Michael, and maybe you see like a big billboard with Archangel Michael and you're like, what? No way. So it's whatever you're connecting with in this world, that is your sign. If it's something, even if it's for someone that's passed on. So my dad passed away last year, and I really wanted something that felt special to me, that felt like I was connected to him. And it's funny because I didn't get what I thought I was going to get. But it made sense though of like why it came. It's a ladybug. And
Uh-huh.
so now it's crazy, because in the most random of places, like even if it's the dead of winter, I'm like seeing these things, ladybugs like pop up in weird places. And it'd always be in times when I'm like, I know I needed this right now. Thank you. So you can do that too for like passed on loved ones as well.
Okay, I have chills right now because I had Katie on the podcast.
Hmm.
Her will be up in, well, before yours is up. And we were talking about spirit babies.
Mm.
And her sign for spirit babies is ladybugs.
Woo, goosebumps too. Full chills.
And she told, you should listen to the episode. She
I am going
told
to.
a story about how it was like blizzarding outside. No, there was no reason why a ladybug should be out in that weather. And she saw a ladybug outside.
Wow, that's crazy. I love it.
And I mean, you guys were in the embodied coach together, and like there's
We're both
definitely,
Katie's.
you're both Katie's. Like definitely, like I would reach out to her because you guys probably both don't even know that.
No, we don't.
Um,
I'm definitely going to tell her that. That's
yeah,
wild.
that's so beautiful. And to speak to that too, with signs, like sometimes, like for example, I was just driving a long ways from California to Colorado, and I was driving and Tony was asleep, and I was just kind of getting, when you drive, you like, that's like the best fucking time to manifest and to really
Mhm.
just like, it's like a meditative state when you're just by yourself in the car, straight road ahead.
Oh yeah.
And I remember I was thinking about what I wanted for the year. And like one of the things is to become a mother. And, you know, I was thinking about that. And then I looked up and I saw 888, like a phone number, but it was 888 Sky. And Skylar is what I want to, if I had a girl, I would name her Skylar.
Woo,
And so
more wisdom.
yeah. And so I saw like a literal sign, but I hadn't even like, I hadn't decided that that was my sign. I just saw it and knew that it was.
Yep.
Right. So sometimes I think signs come to you as well without even like,
Absolutely.
yeah. So it was really cool. So now I know that like, you know, 888 is my,
Right.
for Katie's terms, spirit baby communicating with me.
Yeah, it's your
So,
connection to her. That makes so much sense. And yeah, I do truly believe they can come to you too. Like I always had an affinity for, and I know a lot of other people who have this too, for the number 7, 8.
mhm.
And not even really like any specific reason, except for I was always really drawn to them and I liked them. I was born in 87. I'm aging myself. And then uh when I ran crew and sold magazines, I picked my crew numbers to be 078. And then it just became this thing that I was so connected to because it was a part of me. And whenever I'm talking about something or doing something that like just alignment, you know what I mean? I'll see like 7, 8, 7, 8, 7, 8 or something. Like I just see it, it starts popping up everywhere. Or be like the other day I had that I was like saying a truth and I saw on a license plate it was like 1, 7, 8, 7, 8, 1. And I was like, yep, that is my confirmation for that truth.
Wow. Oh, I love it. I love it so much. This is literally like it could, I think it's because like it's our connection to source. It's our connection to God. Like when we see those things, you can't deny it. I mean, you can try to deny it, but at the end of the day, like especially when you've asked for it and it comes, it's like, damn, like I'm supported. Like
Yeah.
I can make anything fucking happen. I am so
Mm.
guided and so supported and so divine. And I love it so much. I think that it just like it signifies our stardust, like how we are made.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, the universe speaks in symbols because it doesn't use language. We do.
Yeah.
So that would be our way of communicating with it for sure. And symbology has gone back since the dawn of time. I mean, literally from the first vibrations and words that were spoken to the symbols of the pentacle star and even like the target one, the circle with the circle inside. All of these come from ancient symbology that we just use repetitively over and over. So same with like animals and numbers and different things. Everything has a symbolic meaning. And really, like I said, it's about what your meaning is that you attach to it.
Yep. Yeah. So good. Oh my goodness. Okay. So last thing, which we never really, I guess there's two, but subliminal manifestation and then the domino effect. So explain how you coined the domino effect and like what, like how people can start to, I guess, implement. Is it something to implement?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you can implement it. So really it's just okay. So I started getting into manifestation because of the secret, that book,
Mhm. Yeah.
Law of Attraction, right? Ask, believe, receive. And so I started asking for things and playing around. So we'll start first with like domino effect, right? Because this is conscientious manifesting, and thinking about what I want, right? And so in the believing and the receiving, when you are receiving, it sounds kind of tricky, right? Because it sounds like you do nothing, but as you know, there's that action step that you have to take. So
Yeah.
to implement the domino effect, it's literally just taking the action that your spirit is telling you to. So for instance, for me, it was getting past the crazy thoughts and
Mhm.
being like, I'm going to do this drive anyway. That
Yeah.
was the action I had to take. And that catalyzed everything just kind of moving into place. Or even when I moved out to California, right? Like that was actually the beginning of it because I was looking for something different and it was kind of impulsive. I mean, I took like 3 months to move in my whole planning and everything, which in retrospect is not actually that much time, but it is what I needed and it felt crazy. And everybody around me was kind of like, I don't know, you want to do this though? You're going to be out there by yourself and da da da. And I was like, no, I need this. So taking that action step that's aligned is what is going to initially kick off that domino effect. And then you'll just start to see everything falling into place once you're staying in that congruency.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. I love that you spoke to the action piece. You've got to say yes. Like,
Yeah.
I wrote a post, I don't think I've shared it yet, but it's like you've got to think big, but you've also got to play big. Like
Yeah.
you can't just think big without playing. Like thinking is the vision, the desires, the dreaming, but playing is the moving the needle forward on that, like
Yeah.
actually taking action, executing. So
Yeah, definitely. So for non-specific manifesting or just or unconscious manifesting, I guess you could say, the not intentional, for me, I believe the way that I was doing it was just by surrounding myself with the things that reminded me of things that I wanted. So with pictures, with thoughts, I believe that I was like, when I was younger, before I had even been to California, I kept imagining going there. I just kept, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, wow, it'd be really nice to be there. And I kept
totally.
picturing it, what it would be like and who I would meet. And so really that building up that playground within your mind of like, what could happen and who could I see and what would the weather be like? And if it's a place, if it's a thing, what would I feel like when I have that thing? But I just didn't know what I was doing. So it was really kind of cool to see that later, that I was, pulling things into my life like a magnet. Because yeah, and I know all this stuff, but for the listeners, we're on the magnet and we kind of set our radio receptor up and we're pulling in whatever we're putting out. So the
Yeah.
focus.
And I think that this is actually really important for the listeners, like that subliminal piece of it, where,
Mhm.
like, for example, I've had a picture of the Colosseum in my room, just because I really love the picture. It's a beautiful picture of the Colosseum, right? I had it up in my room, and then all of a sudden I had this like dying need to go to Europe. And I was like, I need to go to Europe. I need to go to Rome and I need to see the Colosseum. And then I come back and I took a picture while I was in Rome of the Colosseum. And I was like, oh, this is why, right? Like, because I literally woke up, it's right next to my bed. I woke up and saw the Colosseum every single day and every
Right.
single night and throughout my day and throughout my, yeah. So it's like, it just goes to show how those things actually really, really affect your life. And they
Mm,
can affect your life in a positive way, like seeing the Colosseum and ending up going to Rome and seeing the Colosseum. But it can also affect your life in a negative way based off of what you're surrounding yourself and what you're
yeah.
consuming. So, especially going into this fresh new year that we have, please make sure you're being conscious of what you're consuming. And
Yeah.
if you have things that are not supportive of your highest good or your dreams or your big goals for 2023, you've got to get rid of them and you've got to replace them with something that will subliminally or unconsciously manifest.
Absolutely. That's actually a really big practice for me at any point. That's a big transition. Um, Seasonally speaking, I guess you could even say, I just have been going through my things, getting rid of all the things that do not bring me joy anymore, because it's just taking up space and it's keeping newer, better things that bring me joy from entering into my life. You're right on with that.
Yeah, yeah, it's so important. And like this can literally be something so little and so small. Like I'm trying to see an example, but like the best example is the Colosseum one. But even if you have like, you know, a sign in your room that reads something that's not like aligned with who you're becoming,
Mm.
you got to get rid of it and you got to replace it.
Yeah.
Um, it's honestly like getting my wheels going of like what I want to put in my room this year.
Mm.
Like, what do I
I've
want to wake up?
recently been
Yeah.
doing it with music too, like really cycling through and being like, you know what? Like now that I'm listening to this, do I actually enjoy this? Does it serve me?
Yeah. Yeah. And it is important because whatever you are consuming, like it affects you. Like one of my favorite shows is New Girl.
I love that one too.
And it's really hard for me to like break up with that show.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's literally about like a bunch of broke people living in in a life
Yeah.
together. And as much as
Yeah.
I love the show and it's great, it's also like, is that the show I should be falling asleep to? Probably not. Uh,
Right.
yeah,
Especially in that sleep world.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
I used to get it's hard sometimes when, if you're like staying in the room with somebody else and they want to like listen to something going to sleep and you want to listen to something else going to sleep.
Yeah.
I decided I had to invest in, so Amazon has these, it's like a face mask and then they've got ear things in the side so it doesn't have to go inside of your ears.
Yeah. Oh, I love that because I cannot stand things inside of my ears.
Neither. My ear canals are really tiny and it hurts after a while.
And yeah, I have really small ear holes too. Tony has like the headphones, like AirPods work for me, but the other like the bigger ones, like Tony has them, and I'll try to like put them in my ear, and I'm like, they don't fit, and I don't like them.
Yeah, the second generation ones. That was my problem too. I was actually getting, it was like, yeah, they were way too big for my ears for sure.
Yeah. Oh, so funny. Okay. Well, I've been loving this conversation. We could probably go for like another 2 hours, but we'll pause it here. I would love for you to tell the audience what's going on in your world and how you can serve them, where they can find you. And then if you want to speak a little bit about what your experience was like working with me in 2022.
Awesome. Absolutely. Okay, so you can find me on either Instagram or Facebook. Instagram, I'm tryunity_wellness. And for Facebook, Caitlin, Caitlin, Margavage, one of my many names. And so my offerings coming up in this new year, I have a really exciting project that I am collaborating with a very, very good friend of mine who I've known for about 6 or 7 years, Lightworker Live. And we are creating the Lightworkers Wellness Academy. Basically, we've both been doing this journey of healing for, a long time, and we wanted to create a world where healers, light workers, and people who are on a spiritual path or spiritual entrepreneurs have a place where they can come in, connect, and collaborate at like a low level ticket item, right? Because it can get, with working with coaches, it can get up there. And sometimes you want something and you want the accountability and you want the connection, but you're like, I'm not there yet. But so this is a nice like in between. It's a month-to-month membership. We've got 3 different tiers so that we can literally cater to anybody. The first tier is only $22. The second tier, which you obviously get a little bit more with that, you get more you get free master classes, you get one-on-one coach texting and Voxer and some other things. And that one's $44. And then for the highest level, the $88, you get 25% off of any of me and Liv's services, plus all the things in the previous tiers, plus monthly coaching calls. So there's lots of fun, exciting things in there. Like I said, there's something for everybody, and it's like a month by month thing. You can cancel anytime. You can always change the tier. So there's so much flexibility in it, which I think is beautiful. It's like you can, don't have it this month, cool, come back next month, whatever it is that your needs are. So there's that's the big one. And then I am offering my one-on-one mentorship. This program is called the Rising Phoenix. It is either 3 or 6 months. And through the Rising Phoenix, we basically move through inner child healing, the shadow, integration, regulating the nervous system, masculine and feminine polarity, healing those opposites within, since we all have both within, just in case anybody didn't know that. and energy work, and bringing my energy healing and intuitive guidance into the sessions that we do and the one-on-one coaching calls that we do. It's a lot of mindset work and basically just full transformation. That's why I call it the Rising Phoenix, because I'm like, you're definitely not ashes after you're done. You're a whole new bird. So
Oh my God, so beautiful.
And then at the end of 2023, or not the end, but like more towards the fall, I will be having my feminine archetypal embodiment course, Faye. And this is for women, and it's for feminine archetypal empowerment. We move through archetypes, learning about them, learning how they show up within us through our shadows, through our strengths. And that one's 8 weeks, and it's a group of women. So it's a lot of fun because you have collaboration, connection, and you learn a lot and you empower yourself.
So good. And we've got a lot of light workers listening to this podcast. So now you guys know where to go to feel like supported in community, and learn a lot. So I love this. I'm so excited for you. I'm so proud of you. And it has been a journey. And I feel like even just like a couple of weeks ago, just witnessing like the collaboration that you're in with Liv, like it's been beautiful to see you like really like be of service, like in a bigger way than I think I have ever witnessed you. And yeah, it's just stunning.
I thank you. I really appreciate hearing that because this has been a year for me to step more out into the spotlight because I have always, I mean, I've always been a healer, but I've always been like a behind the curtains healer.
Totally. Yep.
I'm like, I can hide back here. And, I had to really get real with myself and equate a lot of that to low self-worth and not feeling, feeling scared to be seen and feeling scared to be abandoned or rejected. It was a lot of shadow work and a lot of inner child healing to get to a place of feeling strong and solid enough to step out on the platform and do it bigger.
Yeah. So proud of you.
And then that just segues right into the work with you, honestly, because you were definitely one of the catalysts to help me to move to this place of greater expansion within myself and for my audience. So as I kind of touched on before, last year, it was one of the hardest years of my life because of my dad passing. That was like the beginning. So it happened December last year. So I entered 2022 with that on my heart.
Yeah.
And so it didn't feel like fresh and new in 2022. It was like the beginning of a really sad journey. And I was still motivated though. Like I knew my purpose though. And so I just kept, and I've heard other people say this, and I really, really, really love this, but I just kept following my North Star.
Yeah.
I just was like, okay, just like we talked about with the wise men, right? I was like, I know what I have to look at. I'm just going to keep looking at it. And no matter what happens, I'm just going to keep looking. And so again, really too, even with the rest of our conversation, the domino effect, all that, I just stayed in the alignment of what I knew was right for me. So I had worked with somebody else just before you. And then that was actually such a good segue because it's so funny. I think mostly because of shadow stuff, I was like nervous. I knew I wanted your program so, so, so bad, but I was also so incredibly nervous of
Yeah.
taking this leap of doing this thing that felt so, so big to me. And it was a really big heart desire of mine too. And I wasn't so used to following my heart desires. It was like other people's needs first, or I can have a little desire of mine, but not the really big ones because those are scary and it might not work out, or, whatever the thoughts were that were going. So, being in that group though, because the first one that I did, it was just one-on-one coaching, which was great and what I needed for the time. But I really loved being in the group of women too. It was empowering. It definitely accountability and the support system that I needed, that I don't think even y'all knew what you were doing for me as much as, I felt it, because it was making me show up every single week and doing the things that I needed to do. Otherwise, I would have left myself, probably misguided and just, ADD neurodivergent mind, focusing on all the things I don't need to focus on. So it kept me focused, and you just have such a beautiful way of teaching and presenting, and you have a really open heart. And so it was easy to just feel a part of and to I start applying everything. It was like once I started even knowing you more and working with you more and seeing you more and then seeing everybody else, it was like, I can do this. This is, I really, really know I can. So it just created such this level of foundation for, I feel like, what I'm doing now. Cause it's not like I wasn't doing the things before, but I lacked this foundation and this structure of like launching. And that was one of the things that initially really drew you to me. Was I had been doing a lot of work, a lot of mindset work, and just really understanding that like you are the people you surround yourself with. So I was like, okay, who are my people, right? Before it was like a bunch of not that there's anything wrong with this, but for me, it wasn't working. A bunch of men teaching me business, and it was not relating in my mind. I could not connect with it. The things that they suggested to me, I was like, that's stupid. Like, not for them, but for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, I get that it works, but I don't like it. And my brother, like, he owns his own business. He would get so frustrated with me because he's like, but it works. And I'm like, I know, but I don't like it. It doesn't feel right.
Yeah, yeah. Because
like,
alignment is queen. And look, it's 11/11.
Alignment is queen. Yes, perfect. That's another, that's a sign, right?
Yep.
In the moment. So I was really looking for strong women who were doing what I wanted to be doing, what I saw myself doing. And you were one of those women. I'm like, she shows up, she is accountable, she gives valuable information, she has a big heart. It doesn't feel like she's just trying to sell me. She wants a relationship with me. And all those things were so important to me. And like, as you know, we were talking for over a year before I even started working with you. But I
Yeah.
always wanted to. I was just, and then it was actually really funny because I did take another leap in this moment. So I was still working with the one coach that I was working with before I even bought into that first for the embodied. And I hadn't even finished my one-on-one coaching. I had
Yeah.
another month left, but I knew it was going to swing me right from the one into the other. And it was such I could say impulsive decision, but I feel like it was an alignment decision. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then you had offered this like flash thing for the down payment. And I was like, fuck it. What am I doing? I've been wanting to do this forever. She's always the one that I wanted to work with. I just need to do it.
I love that so much. It was also like such divine timing because it was like the last one that I planned
I
on launching. Like,
know.
how wild is that? It was like it's like you knew deep down, you're like, this, she's not gonna run this again. I gotta get in on
Yeah,
it.
this was my moment. I knew it. I felt it.
So beautiful. Well, thank you so much for just speaking to that and your experience. And I receive all of that graciously. And, it doesn't work unless you do. And you showed up for it. You stayed consistent. You executed. You embodied. And that's why you're here today. And that's why you're expanding so much more into 2023. It's, that was the space for you, but you did it. And I always like to make sure I remind my clients of that. Like, you did it.
I'm so proud. I am. I've been working on telling myself more how proud I am of myself.
Yeah. Good, good, good. Oh, well, Kat, this has been amazing. I love you. I love your energy. I love everything that you're offering to the world. You guys, if you love her as much as I do, which I'm sure you do after this conversation, make sure you check her out, follow her, connect with her, check out the Lightworker Wellness Academy.
Got it. Yeah.
Lightworker Wellness Academy, like what a fucking deal that is. If you are a light worker, like go get your ass in there. I know that she's going to transform your life. All right. So thank you for tuning in. I love you all, and I'll see you next episode.